Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel once again. In this video, we want to solve for all values of m from this equation. So if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe, you like, and then you comment as well. Now let's start. So the question is asking us to find for all the values of m, which means that we need to force ourselves and get all the values that the question is asking for. Now, how do we know the number of answers or the values we are going to get for m? Questions like this, we need to check for the term with the highest exponent. In this case, we have the highest exponent to be 5. So we are expected to get 5 answers for m. So stay tuned and let's solve for all the answers. Now, from here, we are going to move -1 to the left hand side. And so we are going to have m to the power 5 plus m to the power 4 plus m to the power 3 plus m to the power 2 plus m plus 1 is equal to 0. Now from this equation, we are going to factorize it in batches of 2. These two terms, 2 and then 2. So let's go ahead and do that. Now over here, we can bring out m to the power 4. So we are going to have m to the power 4 out. Here we are going to be left with just m, and then here plus 1. Plus, and then here we can bring out m to the power 2. So m to the power 2 out. Leaving over here, are going to be left with m plus 1. Then over here too, we can factorize 1 out, leaving m plus 1 is equal to 0. And from each of the terms, we are having m plus 1 in common. So I'm going to factorize m plus 1 out. So I'm going to have m plus 1 out, leaving m to the power 4 plus m squared plus 1 is equal to 0. So over here, we are having two factors. So it's either the first term is equal to 0 or the second term is equal to 0, or both of them is equal to 0. And so we are going to have m plus 1 is equal to 0, or we are also going to have m to the power 4 plus m squared plus 1 is equal to 0. Now from here, we can have m to be equal to -1. So m is equal to -1 is one of our answers. So let me write it over here. M is equal to -1. Now let us continue and solve for the values of m using the second equation. So with the second equation, we are going to make some adjustments. We are going to add and subtract m squared. So we are going to do this: m to the power 4 plus m squared plus 1 plus m squared minus m squared is equal to 0. You know, m squared minus m squared is equal to 0. So here we haven't done anything wrong to the equation. We have just added 0 to the equation. So that is fine. Now over here, we can add m squared to m squared. So we are going to get m to the power 4 plus 2m squared plus 1 minus m squared is equal to 0. Now look at these three terms over here carefully. We can rewrite, or we can combine this term as m squared plus 1 all squared. Now when we expand this, you are expected to get this. So do that and let me know the answer in the comment section. So minus m squared is equal to 0. Now over here, this is the same as a squared minus b squared. And in this case, we are having difference of 2 squared, which we can express this as a minus b multiplying a plus b. So in this case, this term becomes our a, and this becomes our b. And so we are going to have, here we have a minus b, and a is m squared plus 1. So we're going to have m squared plus 1 minus b, and then b is m. So minus m multiplying. Then here we have a plus b. So we're going to have m squared plus 1 plus m. And so this will be equal to 0. Again, we're having two factors, so it's either the first factor is equal to 0 or the second factor is equal to 0, or both of them is equal to 0, as we are seeing over there. And so we can have m squared minus m plus 1 is equal to 0, or we can also have m squared plus m plus 1 is equal to 0. Now let me clean this side. So let us consider this equation when we have m squared minus m plus 1 is equal to 0. So we have a beautiful quadratic equation over here. And so we are going to use the quadratic formula to find the values of m. And the quadratic formula is given by m is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now let us compare the quadratic equation over here with the general quadratic equation. So when we do that, we can realize that a will be equal to 1, and then b will be equal to negative 1, and c will be equal to 1. So from here, we are going to substitute the value of a, b, and c into the quadratic formula, which we are going to have m to be equal to, we have negative b, and b is negative 1, so we are going to have negative of negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared. We have b to be negative 1, so negative 1 squared minus 4, a is 1, c is 1, all over 2a, and then a is 1. So we are going to have m to be equal to, a negative will cancel negative, so we are going to have 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 squared is 1, and then we have negative 4 times 1 times 1 is going to give us negative 4 all over 2 times 1 is 2. Now we're going to have m to be equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 all over 2. Now from here, let us consider the square root of negative 3. So we have the square root of negative 3. This can be written as square root of 3 times negative 1. Here we can distribute the square root as square root of 3 times square root of negative 1. And negative 1 is going to give us an I. So here we are going to have square root of 3i. So in place of square root of negative 3, we are going to have square root of 3i over there. So we're going to have m to be equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 3i all over 2. And this can further be written as m to be equal to 1 plus the square root of 3i all over 2. And then we have m to be equal to 1 minus the square root of 3i all over 2. So we are having another 2 answers for m. So let us rewrite it over here. So m is equal to 1 plus square root of 3i all over 2. And then we also have m to be equal to 1 minus square root of 3i all over 2. So at the beginning, I said we expected to get 5 answers, and now we are having 3 of them using this equation. And so we are going to use the next equation to find the 2 answers. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so with the second equation, we have m squared plus m plus 1 is equal to 0. So when you compare this with the general quadratic equation, a is equal to 1, b is equal to 1, and then c is also equal to 1. And then the quadratic equation there is over 2a. So the quadratic formula is given by this, and so we are going to have m to be equal to, we have negative b, and b is 1. So negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus a and c are all 1s. So 4 times 1 times 1 all over 2a, and then a is 1. So this is going to give us negative 1 plus or minus square root of 1 squared is 1 minus 4 all over 2 times 1 is 2. So we are going to have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 all over 2. So this is the same as negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 3i all over 2. And so we can also rewrite this as m to be equal to negative 1 plus square root of 3i all over 2. Then we are also going to have m to be equal to negative 1 minus square root of 3i all over 2. And so these are our 5 answers for m. Thank you for watching. If today is your first time joining the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment as well. See you in our next video. Bye bye for now.